right, everybody, welcome to St. Thomas Church, whether in person or online for this, what I think will be the last class I'm going to teach about the facade, the ornamental facade of St. Thomas Church as it exists now. I had looked with you already at the east-facing, the majority of the east-facing iconography, or the east facade, excuse me, and I'm going to look at a little bit of it now as well, the bridal door, which I have showing right now, an etching that is at a museum in Boston. This is a museum in Boston, but they don't show it. Fly in. Hello, Bishop. So I've done a lot on the east face, and I'll show you some of the. Come on in. So we looked. Here's the east facing elevation. Or the east elevation, as they call it. There's a lot to know. I want to make sure I can expand it easily. Where's the expand function? Oh, that doesn't happen. I'm in trouble, but it's hidden by the zoom function. So I'm trying to move it. I can. Oh man. Okay, what's this one? I'll try. Can you see the east elevation now?
Yes, very clear.
All right, great. I just have to do this. Unfortunately, my Zoom interface. Oh, there we go. I'll move the Zoom interface down there. Boom. Great. Okay. So you'll have to refer to previous lectures, which are found online, to go over all that we looked at already here. But what the most important piece of this is that what they did in 1918 through the 20s and a little bit earlier before that was an incomplete work. And also they changed it as they went along. They left places blank, they left niches open, they were going to fill it with statuary. And a lot of that wasn't completed until the mid-60s, you know? And I don't know if I wasn't really mindful of that. You know, I guess I noticed many statues that look kind of 60s-ish, this expressionist, less Victorian, less 19th century, more, deco-y stuff. But I thought it was maybe from the 30s. But no, a lot of it's from the 60s. And including this, the Gospels that are found around the rose window on the outside. These are 1960s interpretations of the Gospels. There's an angel on the left which is Matthew, and there's a lion on the right, which is Mark, and then down here is Luke, the bull. I'm trying to move that out of the way, and then eagle over there, John. But in the early drawings, for example, and I talked about this last time, they were much more traditional. Let's zoom in a little bit in the cartoon that they made. A roundel, and there's an angel holding a scroll, and then there's a scroll around it that explicitly says Saint Matthew. All right. There's a lot more, and then over here, Saint Mark, and then there's a winged lion holding the Gospel of Mark. And down here, you have Saint John, the angel, the eagle somehow holding a scroll. I don't know how they would do that with their wings, but with God, all things are possible. And then St. Luke. And so as you can see here, sandals blocked for carving. So they knew from the beginning that they weren't going to carve it until they were ready, or they're ready to pay someone to do it. And that was the case for a lot of it. And so we looked at some of the contrasts between what they had planned, Goodhue and Lowry and Stiers, and then what ended up being created by Canon West, who was who worked at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine, was on the diocesan staff for practically 40 years. Helped make he created the seal of the Anglican Communion. He showed up in Madeleine L'Engle books as a murky, spiritual, maybe national intelligence figure, like a spy craft. priestcraft mixed up all in one, and then symbols. And he was well known for, designing symbolic iconographic schemes for churches. And he was known as an expert on that. Now, and in his case, he created gospels that there's no label. There are scrolls, but there's no labels, and there's no wings. It just presumes what. It's kind of shorthand. It's a kind of shorthand building on the traditional iconography. And he also changes the text. I did this last time, but I just want to kind of, I think this is still really impressive. Thou art the King of glory, O Christ. That's from the Te Deum. And it's part of a liturgy, the Catholic liturgy that that Canon Andrew West respected and encouraged. And but if you look at what was expected in the early in the 1918 or so, the text that they would have put was something a little bit more parochial. Can you read it?
So code that we may die with him.
Yep. That is the words of St. Thomas in the middle of one of the Gospels. I forget which Gospel, but it's kind of like when Jesus is starting to turn his face toward Jerusalem. I wish we lifted up this more. It's just such a awkward phrase, but it actually displays him as having more oomph than St. Peter. What does St. Peter say?
No.
What was it? Yeah.
I know not the man.
Yeah. And Peter says, no, let us not go. Let's stay here. Let's stay on the Mount of Transfiguration and build 3 booths, etc. St. Thomas says, I mean, we always tease the disciples for not getting it, but St. Thomas gets it. This is in the middle. This is not at the resurrection, when he's convinced. He is convinced during, the lifetime of Jesus, the pre-resurrection time of Jesus. So anyway, but what Canon Edward West did is moved it away from an allusion to St. Thomas and his ministry to an allusion to the Catholic Church and Catholic life. And that's not what I want to talk to you about today, but look at this. This is the one we want to talk to you about. The so-called bride's door. Now, we don't use this one a lot. I wish we did, and going through this makes me, think about how I might use it for my next wedding. But the bride is meant to enter through this door so that she's not seen by others when she enters into the church. We've never done it this way when I'm here. In fact, I've never seen this door opened, but it is very, very usual. In West Point, there's a bride's door. And it's actually at a cruciform church. It's designed by the same architect. Bertram Goodhue designed it. So like a war memorial, giant neo-Gothic, Gothic revival church. And he placed in that, because it's cruciform, he placed it at one of the places, it's diagonal and here, if the church was like this, to simulate the spear wound of Christ. And that, the blood coming out, the water coming out, the life coming out. And it's through there the bride goes in, and it's out of that door that the bride and the groom come out. And it's in front of that door that the very crisp cadets all have their swords to greet them, as they come through. Very potent symbolism, a kind of special, sacred, set-aside door for the sacrament of marriage. Now, what I've discovered is that, you look closely, there is a light, there's a lantern here, which I think is so lovely. It's not only to see, but the bridal imagery of having lamps lit and burning, I wonder, maybe it's just because there's no other lamps like this in the around the facade of the church.
I've never seen it lit.
Right.
I don't know if it works.
Well, I bet we don't light it because it would just invite scrutiny and someone to attack it. It's so beautiful, and I'm so glad we don't notice it. There's a lot of things like that in the church. There's a lot of great things about the church. And people are like, why don't people notice them? Well, you know what? I'm kind of glad they don't notice them. I'm kind of glad they just see like a cross and they don't think about the jewels that are in there. You know, there's something about, they look at the church and they don't think to riot upon it. They riot on the Microsoft store because it's so flashy and it wants to be noticed. You know, our stuff is there and it's powerful, and the people with eyes to see it, which I think is cool. So this is the so-called bridal door. It was made along with the church originally. And here, let's look at the east elevation and see what they were thinking about. Let's go down with this original drawing. Let's see what they said closely. All right, it'll come into effect. All right. It says blocked for carving. Right? And it looks like there's no display of a lamp. You know, there's no lamp there inscribed, but there is some kind of, I don't know, panel, some kind of scroll. I don't know what they intended to do there because it's not there unless I forgot. But what do you see in the cartoon? On the left, what's happening on the left?
Healing.
That looks like it. It looks like a healing, but it's actually a priest.
It's a blessing.
What's that, David?
I think he's blessing people.
Yeah.
Gonna be confirmation.
No, it's the bridal door. What if this was the bride's door? What if we knew this was the bride's door? That the two people that are before the taller person is the priest. And it looks like he's holding something in his hand, maybe a stole that he's going to wrap around their hands. And the two people that are down there are the wedding of the couple who are, you know, engaged in the sacrament of holy matrimony. And then on the right, you have, so that's that moment on the left is the declaration of the marriage. You know, I declare that these people, I pronounce that you are now man and wife, or husband and wife. Let no one put what God has put together, let no one put asunder. It's that moment. So there's the declaration of the marriage, and then on the other side is the blessing. The priest is holding up his hands, it would have been his in this time, in a solemn blessing, or Aaron's position, and blessing a couple while they're kneeling before him. I do that every time we're here. And then up here, there's just notes blocked for carving, as if they didn't quite know what else to do. But they put it there, and they knew someone would figure it out, and they did. Now, what's interesting to me is the timeline of this is different than the Canon West timeline of the rest of the ornamental facade that we're talking about, where Canon West comes in 61, 62, 63, and carves it. This is an etching from 1917. And this is someone on the street who is carving, you know, the bride's door as it was back then. Now, what you can see is that it's pretty spare. The lantern is there. See, it's almost like it's missing, or there's a niche for it. There's nothing here. There's nothing there, like in the cartoon. There's nothing in this little ornamental niche here where a statue could go. When you look up St. Thomas bridal door online, you'll find 4 different museums who have 4 different etchings of the same thing, almost as if an art school was coming here and splunking themselves down on Fifth Avenue with easels to teach their students how to do this. Because I found another one from the same time period. Oh, this is one artist, the same artist of this one. She came in and etched the rose window, which is pretty, you know, pretty impressionistic at this point. Here we have the bride's door a few years later. And, you know, the art students must have been coming, but they must have done it multiple years in a row, because this time, I mean, like this one's from like 1920, it's like for 21. Look, there are images. right? There's carvings. It said blocks for carving, and indeed they carved it. Not only did they carve the figures who are declaring the marriage and then blessing the marriage, they carved into it all these beautiful signs and filigrees and curly cues. And what if I were to tell you that one of these curly cues caused a scandal in the life of the church that made the New York Times? Would you believe me? It did. And I'm going to show you. All right. So, oh my gosh, it's hilarious. All right. So let's go back to then how it looks like today. Look here. Now, this is what I don't understand. This is what it looks like today. Look at the right one. Excuse me, the one on the set of figures on the left. And then look at the engraving that they did in 1921. Someone,
Completely different.
yeah, completely different. So someone was working from what the mind of the artists, Goodhue, thought, and kind of maybe this was a proof of concept drawing at an earlier stage. So I gotta be honest with you. I thought I knew when it was carved by thinking about these engravings, but guess what? Nope. I don't actually know when these were carved. But let's see what the iconography is on this side. What does that look like to you? Who do you think is on the left?
It's like the Eucharist.
Yes. Who do you think is on the left? I think that's fair. And who do you think's on the right? Let's say a wedding couple. And Jesus is blessing maybe wine. What if he's turning water into wine?
Okay.
You know, that's not what the story goes. I mean, he literally turns, 6 giant jars of purification water into wine. But maybe it's a reference to Jesus turning water into wine at the wedding of Cana. And now Jesus does the same thing at everybody's wedding. Turns the water of life into something a little bit better, the best wine. And it's a much more lyrical interpretation of an image. Before it's literally what they're doing at a wedding. Here, let me go back to this one. It's literally the moment when on the left they are declared husband and wife, and it's literally the moment on the right when they are declared, they are blessed. Their wedding is blessed in the name of Jesus Christ, one of the functions of the priest. But here it's more like, this is in like a vision. This is a visionary interpretation. A wedding is when Jesus comes to your table and turns the water at your table into wine. And that's what it's like for every couple. And it rhymes with the wedding of Cana. That's what I think is going on. And then watch this. Ooh. What is different here? There is the priest blessing the wedding couple, but who else is there?
Jesus is behind his shoulder.
Yeah, look at that. So it is saying something theologically that the priest is blessing the couple, but Jesus is in a way mystically behind the priest, blessing the couple as well. It's a very vivid, it's part of our theology that when the priest is blessing and forgiving in a liturgy, and the priest says, I forgive you, I bless you. You're in persona Christi. You're in the person of Christ, set aside to do Christ acts for the sake of the community. And this is saying that you've got a cross, you've got the rings around the cross. You've seen that image before. I've seen that image before. 2 rings around a cross. But the idea is that, Christ is in the center of the marriage, the vows. And so it's the next step. So it makes me wonder if Canon West was a part of this, because that's what he would do. He would take the traditional stuff or the literal stuff and take it to the next level. And that's what he does here. Let's look in the center. what do we see here?
The hand of God.
Yeah. The hand of God. That's a traditional iconography of the hand of God. And what's odd about it though, is something I've never seen a hand of God do, is have a stole on it.
Mhm.
Now you need to know that a stole has a cross on the back of the neck. Many Anglo-Catholic priests kiss the stole, the cross, which is sewed on the stole right behind your neck before they put it on. This hand of God has a stole on it, which suggests to me that it's doing the same thing over here with the priest and Jesus. That when the couple's hands are put together, and it says, I have pronounced them husband and wife. And the stole is utilized in that portion. The stole is wrapped around the couple's enclosed hands. That's where tying the knot comes from. And that's part of the liturgy. And it's really quite beautiful. The stole that is a part of all the liturgies, all the Eucharists, all the funerals, all the baptisms, is utilized in so viscerally in wedding service.
But it's not taken off.
Yeah, well.
Is it taken off?
I wonder, I've never done that. I've never taken it off, but it would probably be much more powerful.
Or two ends to tie it.
What I do is I shuffle one part of it down,
Oh, yeah, you have a long end.
have it come out, and then wraps it around them and do this. But it would probably be more decent for me to just take it off and do that.
Well, maybe that's more the symbolism that it's.
Right. But and so the reason why I focus on the stole is because there's a stole right here, and the stole, one end of the stole is here, the other end of the stole is here, and you can imagine the back of the stole looping behind that ring, and that's the stole, one big stole. It's a very priestly act, but the act of the priest is connected with the presence of God. It's almost like it's a blurred existence, and just like this over here, like you said, Tom, it's like the Eucharist. In the priest, the family now has holy wine at their table, which Jesus provides. And it rhymes with the Eucharist. It rhymes with what a priest does week to week. Yes.
Looks like the hand has a ring on the right hand.
Let's see. Let's look closely.
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does. All right, let's take it down. Let's take it down. Yeah. Who knows? I don't know about the ring traditions are fluid, this was 100+ years ago. I mean, 100+ years ago, they didn't have diamonds on the rings, I think, until recently, until De Beers came along. I think, it's hard to, I wonder. But yes, but then let's look up here. And this statue. Huh. Now, this wasn't in the cartoon. This wasn't in any etching that we saw. Who do you think this is?
St. Thomas, I guess.
Oh, all right, I'll take guesses. You'll get a lifetime supply of Eucharist if you get it right. Anytime you want to come here and have Eucharist, you'll get it for free. So,
The scroll was Luke, isn't
it's a scroll, so you say Luke. Unfortunately, that's not the case.
There's nothing on the pedestal.
Is there anything on the pedestal? No. Well, let's look closely at that scroll. What do we see here? It looks like those hands are those. It's odd.
No.
It's just the cloth. It's just a scroll that he's holding. Well, I wouldn't have known it. So, we can be colleagues in confusion. It's Joseph.
Really?
Evidently, Joseph is a patron of weddings.
Oh.
In a certain tradition that is unfamiliar to me. Joseph's probably a patron of families, you know what I mean? And that's probably, and that's probably what, so it's St. Joseph. There you go. And, Mary is in the main portal. So she's the center in there. And so maybe it's like, well, we need Joseph somewhere. So let's put him in there. Now I'm going to get to the controversy. Now, if you were someone who was living 105 years ago, let's see, no, it was 1921. It made it into the paper, August 9th, 1921. If you were to look up at this, what do you think would have caused a scandal? And I made it very easy for you. I could have done this and said, what would have caused a scandal? And you might have said other things, but no, I'm going to try to make it easy for you. What would have caused a scandal in this area, in this detail? All right.
Wait, is it the cupola over Joseph?
That is correct.
Is it?
Yeah, but why?
Because it's Jewish?
Okay. Not right, not correct, but you're really warm. But I think, we're going down, it's gonna be really hard to see this because you're gonna laugh. All right. So this is the, I've got here, I got this off of the Internet Archive. New York Times, August 9th, 1921. And the headline is this, JPM money bags adorn St. Thomas's. Crowds inspecting $ on church. Discover emblem representing bankers. All right. So, writer in architecture explains symbolic significance of various designs. The $, I'll read it in my, the $sign over the door of St. Thomas Church drew larger crowds than ever yesterday, and all day long passerby on Fifth Avenue gathered by the steps to inspect the emblem and the monocled chapless faces carved in miniature over the main portal. An endless line of visitors streamed into the church itself, wandered up the aisle to the chancel and out again. So they saw a scandal in this curly cue right here. And they thought it was us being a house of mammon and wealth because it looked like a $sign. Does that? It's kind of like, those people say, oh, I saw the Virgin Mary in the stonework. That happened at St. Thomas, St. Bart's 100 years ago. The marble was cut in a way, they cut the marble and they opened it up and it matches, and there was one that was not symmetrical for some reason. And in that people saw Christ, and it made it to the New York Times, the same era. And let me go further, the presence of the initials. And so then that had them come into the church to scour, like, where's Waldo? Any other sign of wealth, adoration. And this is what was said. They looked all through the fire stalls trying to find some proof that there was some secret Masonic, banker, there's this anti-Jewish stuff in there too, stuff going on. And they found the presence of the initials JPM under 3 money bags. One of several wood carvings along the front of the choir stalls in the chancel became known yesterday. Now, I don't know if this is the case. If you can find them, you tell me.
Oh, they're there.
They're there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the guides for walking tour pointed them out when I brought the JP Morgan people who are handling our investments.
Yes.
Sure.
Okay, so they're really there. The presence of the initials JPM under 3 money bags, one of several wood carvings along the front of the choir stalls in the chancel, became known yesterday. A description of the church's architecture and statuary published by Ernest Pelsato in the July 1920 number of Architecture, a monthly Scribner periodical, states that this particular emblem, the third from the west end of the north choir stall, represents bankers, and other carvings in the row standing for doctors, lawyers, authors, architects, museums, musicians, the wireless railways, the telegraph, sculptors, steamships, and the shield of the Roosevelt family. So I haven't done the carvings yet. Maybe that's another set of classes, but this might be an excellent segue. The dollar sign, money bags at JPM are not the only modern elements in the church's decorations. Mr. Capsato points out, for among the carvings to be found, there are semi-jocose utilization of such themes as prohibition, conquering Bacchus, and the consumer crushed between capital and labor. Among the sculptured heads within are various luminaries from the war. Someone says, all this is as it should be, writes Mr. Capsato, marking for future generations the historic epoch in which this great work of art was created. The wood carvings for the St. Thomas's, according to Mr. Capsato, were done by Irving and Casson, A.H. Davenport and Company of Boston and New York, under the careful supervision of the rector, the Reverend Ernest M. Stiles. The article completes by saying the bronze door dollar sign is not mentioned in his article. All right. I mean, scurrilous press coverage, if ever I saw it. They're like saying, you know, it's like those press articles that like, where they add a question mark, you know, so they can say they're not actually suggesting it. Is there a dollar sign on the front of St. Thomas Church? You know, they don't, you know, it's not a dollar sign. It's not. It's a curlicue. I did.
It's a slow news day.
It must have been a slow news day. Yeah.
Well, the press doesn't change.
Right. Yeah. And so, and then there's something else I want to point out that's important. The Roman numeral right here. Let's go even closer. It's off to the side. Oh, no. It's off to the side. What does it look like to you?
Anno Domini.
Anno Domini MD C
1911.
X I. So the M is what number? 10,000. The D is what? 500.
500.
Yeah, and then the C's are each 100. And then XI is 11. What if I were to tell you that this is incorrect? They did Roman numerals wrong. This is how you're meant to do it. There's too many C's.
Yeah.
So you're not meant to put that many C's in. You're actually, if you were to do it correctly, you would do M C M X I. Because the letter C cannot repeat itself more than 3 times in a row. And so when you put a C before an M, that allows you to create 1900. So it's 1 C minus 2 M's. Yeah. You know, well, so
100 minus 2,000.
so yes, right. So you have 2 M's up there and a C in the middle. It means 100 minus 2,000 minus 100. And then you do the X and the I. So whoever did this, I don't know. I guess we gotta fix it. I don't know what to do. The Romans are gonna get us.
I think it's video.
Actually, that mistake is often made. I've seen it before.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, where they come up with 1900 by adding an extra C.
Yep. And what is odd is in this version, they don't add the I, but it, you know, so I don't know if this was actually made when it was up or made by someone who had a keen mind, artistic mind, and could look at the cartoon and simulate it. You know what I mean? Like a designer. So there we are. Let's go. You know, the facade is really, I'm gonna loom over to, the facade is just so beautiful. There's so many beautiful elements. One thing that I cannot figure out, this is the stairwell, the spiral staircase up to the rector's office. It's right over there. But I cannot, I've been trying to understand it. And this is the crispest picture that I've gotten yet. But I can't for the life of me decipher what the text is here. Now I can get a picture of it. I can look at it, but I am at a loss as to what it actually says. The script is so obtuse for me. And I can't get a foothold. Can any of you decipher even a single word in this? I wonder if it's in Latin. I just don't know. Look here. Amo, is that AMOTE? I love you, amote. So maybe it is in Latin. But look over here where is that the word earth? It's just, it's very, very difficult. No matter how, hey, Father Turner, do you know where these were? I get the best shots I can get, but I still can't decipher the text around your spiral staircase.
Really?
Yeah, do you know where it just looks, I can't even tell if it's in Latin or.
It looks Latin, but
Yeah, it's so difficult to read. So I'm still, so everyone, I'm desperately seeking what this actually is saying. And in no book or no file have I found it yet. I shall have to look here. It's all the cartoons of the elevations that Goodhue made. And so it might have been, a later edition. It would have been relatively straightforward to carve this, So yeah, I'll figure it out.
I can't see one.
Yeah. But if you look at these other details, what is really interesting to me about the rectory that they made for the rector is the iconography that represents his office or his role among the people. So if you go over here, now I remind you that the parish office was designed to be the rector's home, a brownstone, a 5-floor, brownstone, so to speak, or gray stone.
So it was just the rector's house and the church and nothing else.
It was this. This was here.
That's his office, and this is the vestry where he would dress, I guess.
This was, I think, that was a library.
Oh, it was a library.
Yeah, this might have been an office, but yeah, the parish house of yes. Oh, sorry.
The Virgin's original, the rector's original office is the Virgin office.
Got it. Yes, that was the library.
Original is right.
Yes.
It's on the
Do
back.
you know what this was originally? This.
I think the rector's spa.
Yeah. Yes, more administration. These were all a set of administrative offices. But yeah, so the parish house would have been this space of, rector's library, rector's offices down in the verger's office. The Andrew Hall, now we call it Andrew Hall, would have been a part of the scheme. And trying to think of anything else. Oh, the music office would have been, that was actually where we kept bodies. That's where you kept coffins overnight. Before, it was, you could actually do, there's drains there. You could actually embalm people there.
Really?
Yeah. It's set up for that. But now it's all shelving. But it's a very beautiful place to embalm. I mean, there's carvings, it's very dignified space. But this would have been the entrance to the rector's home. And on either, so above you would have had, you have the seal of St. Thomas, the spear and the square. The signs of, it was said that St. Thomas was an architect and built things, and the spear is the spear. I want to get this right. I think this is the spear that pierced Christ, and that was, the king's.
The spear was the martyrdom, was the
way St. Thomas died.
Yeah.
Sorry, my mistake. You're absolutely right. It's the way St. Thomas died, by a spear.
and there's a lot of thistle all over the place.
Yeah, look at that.
It's a symbol of Scotland, I think,
So
it's all over.
I'm sorry. There's a thistle and a white rose, or one of the roses. Is that English, England and Scotland, maybe? That's interesting.
Generally, when you see the Tudor rose and the Scottish thistle, it means the ancestry of the congregation is English and Scottish.
Okay. Well, then, but then look over here. Oh, really? Got it. So on this, something's interesting in the ironwork. I don't know if you ever noticed the number 1.
Yeah.
Which designates it's 1 West 53rd. And then over here you have the sheep and the shepherd. So, you know, the pastoral role of the priest is, the idea, there's a lot of ideas in the Gospels of, I lead people through the true gate. I am the gate. The priests are leading the sheep into the gate through which they're going to get slaughtered. I lead them out to the pasture where they may safely graze, where there's living water, all that. So that's fascinating. And last bit. No. There it is. Okay. So adjacent to the main entrance is what looks like to me a manifestation of the seasons and night and day. So let's go through here. Here's an angel that portrays night. And we have a moon and a star and her flying through the sky. Then here we have spring, wine flowing in spring, water flowing in spring, things melting and some kind of new dough or something like that. Over here we have summer. There's garlands and life and looks like parties. And over here we have the harvest of fall and autumn. And then over here, next one, these are quite well preserved because they're under this, then we have icicles, snowflakes, 2 snowflakes, and this angel is really covered up. It's cold. Even the angels get cold. My. Must be, it's a freeze warning, I think, in heaven. And then here we have this angel that has the sun, that carries the sun. And so a lovely, whimsical set of angels. Okay, well, that was what I wanted to present to you. And let me see if we can expand this. I don't want to close it.
Right on time.
Yep. But thank you, everyone. I'm going to stop. Oh, I need to stop the share. Good. All right. Well, it's time for me to depart. Does anyone have? No, I just need to leave. I'm sorry to not give you any time to talk. This went a lot longer than I thought. I was like, how am I going to? This is not enough at all, but it was. So thank you for joining me on this little tour. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Great series.
You ever go up and see St. Vincent Ferrer